Hey everybody, this is T-Ray from H10 Hanshin Tigers English News. 皆さんどうも T-Ray の H10 です。H10 の T-Ray です。どっちでもいいです。I am H10 and H10 is me. And with me is Sanjay in Honolulu. How are you doing, my friend?
Aloha, brother T-Ray. I'm doing very well, thank you. And thank you for having me here again. Hawaii kara aloha, Sanjay desu.
It's
Yoroshiku.
It's always good to chat Tigers with you. And so, since last episode on the podcast, not the one we just recorded, but the one from 2 weeks ago, we talked about which Japanese Tigers we might have to say goodbye to. I figured we could talk a little bit about the non-Japanese players and which ones we might be saying goodbye to and which ones we're definitely hanging on to and which ones we hope to hang on to, because there are several categories going on here. So let's recap. We have got 8 import players on our squad right now, and it breaks down just like your fingers there: 5 pitchers and 3 position players. So Sanjay, putting you on the spot, name the 5 pitchers.
Name the 5 pitchers we have.
Yeah, import ones.
Joe Gunkel.
Yes.
Jon Edwards.
Yes.
Roberto Suarez.
Robert. Yep. You don't like Roberto.
He goes by Roberto though.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Roberto, even though
it's in katakana. Katakana でね。はい。
Even in, I think, whatever his native language is.
Spanish.
Dominican, Spanish, yeah.
そっか。Okay.
Yes. Raul Alcantara.
はい。
And Wei-Yin Chen.
There you go. The 5. They come from 4 different countries, I believe.
Sounds about right.
Got Taiwan. We got Dominican Republic. We got Venezuela, and we've got America. So there you have it. All right. So as far as those pitchers go, would you believe that 3 of them are on 2-year deals right now, and they're finishing up year 1 of the 2-year deal? Those 3 pitchers would be Wei-Yin Chen, Raul Alcantara, and Robert Suarez. So unless the information I found on the internet, which is always right, is wrong, we will have these guys back in 2022. And I, for one, am quite thankful for all 3 of them. Suarez, from what I've heard, is itching to get over to the majors, and understandably so. I mean, he has been dominant with the Tigers the last 2 years, and you got to strike while the iron's hot. He was not hot when he was with the Hawks back in the day, but he is hot now. But I believe we've got him locked up for 2022. So what are your thoughts on Suarez?
Actually, I was under the impression, I'm sorry, I thought he was, free to go after this year. And I'd seen the human interest stories about how he used to be a taxi driver and a truck driver, dreaming of becoming a Major League Baseball player. And here he is finally, making it big. And I was worried like the majors are going to come poaching him.
Well, I mean, I do know that scouts have been looking at him, but I was pretty sure that last offseason he signed a 2-year deal. Now, if it's a player option for year 2, then we might be in some trouble. And that might be the case. So if that is the case, I mean, we've got to beg and plead for him to stay, because, man, our 9th inning has not been this rock solid since the prime years of QG.
Agreed.
And that's saying something, because we had Sung Hwan Oh in there as well, and he was quite good. And he's got the import record for most saves in a single season with 41 in 2015. But yeah, Suarez, come back. We need you. We want you. We love you. Is that how the AKB48 song goes? No, not quite, but you get the idea. Okay, next we'll talk about Raul Alcantara then. He has not really worked out the way that we had expected, in the sense that we signed him to be a workhorse starter. And as a starter, things didn't quite work out so well. And so we have got him then in our bullpen instead. On the season, he is right now rocking a 3.72 ERA, 2-2 record, 48 innings pitched with 38 strikeouts, and just 10 walks. And yeah, overall, his numbers are kind of middling. I think that we expected better from him when we signed him. And I'm sure he expected better from himself also when we signed him. But I don't know. Do you like the fact that we've got him for another year, or do you really think that we could just send him packing?
Oh, no, I don't think we want to send him packing at all. I think he's definitely a very, very serviceable weapon to have in the arsenal. And it's sort of a combination of how the fielders are performing to whether or not we can have him up on the top squad or not. But no, we love him.
No, you're exactly right. And especially with the eight man rotation, if we will, of imports. Yeah, it's been hard to find him that constant spot. Let's also keep in mind he's only 28 years old, and giving him this as his kind of grace year, if you will, that next year he's still only going to be 29 when the whole season. So certainly, you could expect to see some growth from him, and hopefully a positive growth for next season. So I'm cool with us keeping him on for 2022. I'm glad that he'll be here. Wei-Yin Chen, on the other hand, is 36 years old and did not have much of a season for us this year, going just 2 starts and a 3.86 ERA in those starts. He looked good in one and he looked not so good in the other. He won against the Dragons at Bantaline Dome, which was his old home when he played there a decade ago, I think. And then he lost against the Bay Stars. I think that one was also on the road, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know that he's even pitched at Koshien in a regulation game. So yeah, he's going to be 37 in the middle of next season. But what do you think? Do you think he's still got some good innings left in that arm? Or, this is a guy that has pitched well in NPB prior. He's also pitched well in MLB, but he's got a lot of mileage on that left arm.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of the information black holes we've got going this past year, right? He seems like the nicest guy in the world. I would love to meet him and, go out and have a drink with him and so on. But I don't know if there's, if he's got anything left in the tank anymore, right? And it wouldn't surprise me if he just kind of hung him up.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an option for him. I mean, not that you could never tell a player like, no, you're not allowed to retire, right? You're under contract. Like, guys can leave mid contract, but I know that he said about a couple of weeks ago that he wants to come back completely and be healthy for next year. So I'm going to assume he's going to be back. And of course, since we didn't really get to see the real Wei-Yin Chen in 2021, why not check him out in 2022, see what he's got to offer. Okay. 2 more guys then that we can talk about, and they are both from the US of A. That would be Joe Gunkel, who is only under contract till the end of this year. But from what we've seen so far this year out of him, he's got 9 wins on the season, which is way better than his last season where he was not particularly strong. He was actually good out of the bullpen, but as a starter, he was pretty ineffective. This year, he's been quite effective as a starter. What are your thoughts on Joe?
Come back, Joe. Come back. We love you.
So here's the interesting thing, just kind of a side, not really personal. Well, personal for him, maybe. His wife is finally here, I believe, in Japan. And it's been a long time coming because of COVID. And also, I think because of her work, it's been hard for her to get out here and spend time with him. So I wonder if that might add to the quality of his performance or the quality of his enjoying life in Japan, being able to be here with his bride. Because he was a newlywed when he signed with the Tigers. I think he'd only been married for a year at the time. So I think,
wow, that's pretty harsh conditions.
Yeah, I would say so. It's almost like Japanese, like with the tanshin funin, that Japanese salarymen get hung around their necks early in their careers quite often.
Yeah, except that it's not the norm in the US. And so kudos to him for putting up with extra hardships that I wasn't aware of, frankly. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Right, sure, yeah. So the other thing about Gunkel that we should talk about is that he will be 30 this offseason. So he is still fairly young as well. I think he's got, and this is a guy that, didn't have a heavy workload throughout his, I'm guessing, through his life in the minors in America. So I think he's still got a good amount of gas left in the tank. So the last guy, and I think this one's the most, well, I guess controversial, but maybe like people might see it as the least important decision or whatever. And that would be Jon Edwards, who is a reliever. He will be 34 at the start of 2022, so before the season starts. And this year, he's had just 7 games on the top squad with a 2.57 ERA, 7 strikeouts in those 7 innings pitched, and kind of just standard. Like, batters went 240 against him. He walked 4, which is kind of high for 7 innings. Gave up 1 home run. His whip was 1.43, so nothing spectacular. And then on the farm, his ERA was 291, striking out 36 in 34 innings, which is quite a bit better, over a K per inning. walking just 5 in those 34 innings. So I don't know what happened to his control on the top squad, but that's Jon Edwards. What are your thoughts on him? Do we need him? Do we say, hey, you're 34 and it's just time for us to find somebody younger, always looking for the younger, hotter, prettier girl? Or do we stick with Jon?
Well, you know what? The thing about him, isn't he the converted former outfielder now turned pitcher or something like that? I mean,
I believe
he
so.
he was mashing the balls in the batting practice for the home run derby for the pitchers and on the farm squad, as I recall. um, I think he could be our two-way Shohei Ohtani, you know, Japan version, right? So keep him. We like him.
Okay, so next year with presumably things going back to extra innings and so on, there might actually be a case for relievers stepping into the batter's box at times if they are pitching multiple innings. So there is that possibility. The other thing is, and this is again kind of on the personal side, just stuff that I happen to know. I'm privy to some information that others aren't, but I've just heard that, he is the nicest of guys. I've met him. He is a nice guy for sure. But I've heard that, like, despite all the time that he's spent on the farm and how little chance he's gotten on the top squad, he's been very good about it. Like, he doesn't seem to have issues with it. He doesn't have an ego saying like, hey, why are you bringing me all the way here from America and then not using me? Like, he seems to be pretty happy about that. He's also been involved in some charity work here in Japan as well, which I think is a huge positive. And so I say this, and this is definitely not a baseball executive decision, which is why I'm a podcaster, not a baseball exec. I would put the ball in his court. If you want to come back and you're happy with the same role, come back, because we can always use that extra guy that if something goes wrong or if we need the extra help in the bullpen, he's there.
Plus, that kind of person it goes a long ways in the organization when you have somebody who's a team player who fits in, who values the wah. You got to have wah, right? So it sounds like sort of the guy that you want to have around.
Yeah. So Jon, we want you back. It's funny. I talked to Zorni about this. I think it might have been one of the two talking Torakichi from years past, and like the conclusion we reached was that we were both terrible at kicking Gaijin off the team. Like, we just love them all. We want them all to stay. And I think that's kind of true about these guys. Well, let's move into the position players, and we'll start with the guy with the 2-year contract. If I'm not mistaken, Rojas's contract, Mel Rojas Jr., that is a 1-year deal with a 2nd-year player option, which yes, it is a player option. Which is basically this: the teams don't like giving the player the option, but they basically said this: we want you so bad that we will allow you to opt out of year 2 if you have such a good year that the majors are chasing you down. And the thing with Rojas is he hasn't had such a good year. The majors have not chased him down, and I would be willing to bet dollars to donuts, donuts to dollars, however the saying goes, that he will want to come back, because he's making like $2.5 million, and I don't think any other club, NPB, KBO, or MLB, is going to offer him near that much to join their team.
Well, that's probably a fair assessment, and I think that's totally okay given the situation, given the contract, etc. And he's lately been coming along. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the podcast too. That's a big, strong man who can hit the ball a long ways, even when he doesn't make solid contact. So, yeah, let's have him stay. I hope he opts in, because, as you say, the finances also make sense, and he probably would like to have a whole season under his belt, showing what he can do.
So if you watch the interviews that I did with Rojas Jr., which are up on YouTube, or at least 2 of them are, and there will be more coming soon. He loves it here. He loves the teammates. I think he's pretty happy to be with the Tigers organization. The one thing I find odd is that he's hit 7 home runs, and some of them have been pretty significant. And how many Heroes podiums has he been on this year? 0.
Oh, 0. Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's 0. No, I'm pretty sure he hasn't been up there yet. I was expecting it last night when he supplied the only 2 runs that our team got, but they gave the podium to Nishi. Definitely, if that was a home game, it would have been a duo up there. But yeah, I think he's still waiting for that very first one, and I can't wait for it to happen. It could happen in 2021, but if not, I'm waiting for a bunch of those in 2022. So
I hope that you teach him some Japanese phrases to use on that Heroes podium.
You can count on me. Makasete kudasai. All right, let's talk about our last two position players. Those would be Jefry Marte and Jerry Sands. Where do you want to go first? Let's go with the vet, Jefry Marte, who has been here for now 3 seasons. This clearly hit the most productive of his years with the Tigers because his first 2 were quite injury riddled. In 2019, he, I think, hit 12 home runs and played in about 100 games, 105 games, hit 12 home runs, 49 RBI. And the team said, hey, that 825 OPS and the fact that you hit 12 home runs when our team last year, being 2018, couldn't hit home runs to save their lives, we welcome you back. And he rewarded that with a 29 games played season, spent most of the year hurt. I think it was calf muscle pulls and stuff like that. His OPS was only 783. He had 8 errors in those 29 games, including, I think, 4 in one game. And I was thinking, no way we bring Jefry Marte back. But we did. And are we glad we did?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we are. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is a guy that has been carrying the team. I would say that if not for Chikamoto, I would name him the MVP of the team, hands down. He's definitely a candidate right now, even with Chikamoto in the lineup. Batting 278, 14 doubles, 22 home runs, OPS of 879, and fewer errors than last year. He's got 7. He's actually been quite good at first base. And his on-base percentage of 390 easily tops the team, and I think is in the top 3 in the Central League. So Jefry Marte, you are our man. If you can't do it, no one can. And I believe he's still just 30 years old.
He's a young buck, entering his prime. And I want to add that there's a lot of overlap in my old mind with him and Tom O'Malley, who likewise did whatever the team asked him to do. Can you play first base? Yeah, I'll play first base. Can you play third? Sure, I'll play third. I mean, the guy does everything that you ask of him. The ultimate team player, the mood maker, the La Pampara maker. We just need him back in a big way.
Yep. I would be glad if they signed him to a multi-year deal this offseason because, yeah, like you said, I think one of the big parts too is just he fits in so well with the team, right? And he's still fairly young. So let's transition then to the next guy who is not fairly young, at least by baseball standards. And this is the big, I think this is the big controversial one right here, the big question mark. We've got Jerry Sands, who is 34 years old now and is coming off he's had 2 seasons with the Tigers. Last year, 19 home runs and 64 RBI with a 333 RISP, 257 batting average, but it was more like 280 until the end of the season. And then he just tailed off. And he's kind of done the same thing again this season where he's tailed off in a ridiculous way, batting just 248. He bettered last year's numbers with 20 home runs. He's got 65 RBI. So that also betters last year's number by 1. His OPS is 291, which is not terrible either, but it certainly isn't the standard that it was before. But still, thoughts on Jerry Sands?
It would make me happiest if the Central League went to DH system.
Yes, indeed.
And it probably make him happy too. Love the guy, love his attitude, love what he brings to the team. Happy hands and all. And yeah, man, he's like Yano said when he sent him down, as you mentioned in the podcast. So much of the first half of the season was thanks to Jerry Sands. And and we want more of that, man.
So the hard part is there's a couple of things. One, his age. So he's 34. Actually, that's the exact same age that Matt Merton was. Speaking of Merton, that's what I'm wearing right now. That's the same age Matt Merton was when the team sent him on his way after 6 seasons with the Tigers. If I had to compare the two, I would say that Merton was maybe a little bit speedier than Sands is right now. So not that Sands is a terrible outfielder, but his range is not very good. And so, like you said, if there were a DH, it would be a pretty clear choice to make him that guy. But my biggest point of concern besides his age is the fact that he's tailed off so badly both of his seasons with the Tigers. His second half, or certainly like the final, say, 30 games of the season, have been pretty awful both seasons. And I just can't help but wonder. I almost feel like when he gets called up in about a week, that his contract for next season is on the line. If he can perform and help the team to some more victories, he'll be welcomed back. But even if he plays just middling baseball, like bats 250 and hits 1 or 2 home runs, I don't necessarily think he's going to be called back in 2022. I hate to say it because I do like the guy. I do know him, but I just kind of feel like I'm not really sure the way this Hanshin team operates and the way that they cut players that, you really don't expect them to. I thought Bohr would be back in 2021. He's not, right? So,
Yes.
I don't know. I kind of have a feeling it might be the end of the road for the Happy Hands, but I also know he's a fan favorite. He's a T-Ray favorite. He's a Sanjay favorite. So let's see what the team does. All right, everybody. Well, I think that about wraps things up for myself and my thumbs went the wrong way. There you go. Myself and Sanjay. But thank you so much for joining us today. As always, we appreciate your comments, your likes, your subscribes, your shares, all that good stuff. Stay tuned because hopefully the next time we talk to you, we'll have some great Hanshin Tigers news. Catch you next time, everyone.
Mahalo. Aloha.